reached Conversations with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Abastilla. Thank you for listening. Let's get right to the episode. Welcome to another edition of Conversations with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Abastilla. And so for this edition, I have another guest. Her name is Ashley Ruiz, and she is the director of a company called Alta Vista Life Integrated Services. Ashley, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
So, Ashley, can you explain a little bit what Alta Vista is and what it entails?
Sure. Alta Vista is a nonprofit. We are a behavioral health agency, and we also recently received our private school status.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Can you tell a little bit what the private school status is and what it entails?
Absolutely. So we offer both mental health counseling as well as wraparound services for individuals, youth, and family. And then we aim to offer inclusive education opportunities, so both part-time, full-time, as well as independent tutorial options for students who, for whatever reasons, don't want to be in the public school system.
Okay. And so this is for, so Alta Vista, it serves both youth and adults, correct?
Yes. Individuals, youth, and families.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about the vision? How did the vision come to be?
Absolutely. So Alta Vista is very much a mission. I was woken up from sleep one time, actually, and God gave me two very clear dreams. He told me to open up a school, and then also he told me to open up a sister organization in Mexico, and that still has to come into fruition. But very faithfully, I just stepped out in faith in 2019. I formed the nonprofit status with our original board, and just prayerfully we stepped forward in faith. We started with behavioral health, so counseling services, and as time went on, that grew to an extent, but and we, at the same time, within 6 months, we started our preschool services and our homeschool support and educational tutoring services, as well as our neurodiverse social and life skill support groups at our Port Orchard Center. I don't know how much
No, that's fine.
history that you really want for it.
That's okay, keep going. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
So within that first 6 months, I had a personal tragedy. My son died of SIDS, and within, I would say 60 days of that happening, like the Lord tripled our agency, like the locations we opened in Port Orchard as well as Poulsbo at that time, and God just wrapped around me as well as the agency and grew it, outside of world circumstances. And that happened time and time again, where, things would happen in the world, whether client circumstance or certain licensing, things that could be mountains or barriers. And, the God would just kind of move it out of the way and keep growing it. And it came to this point of stagnation. We've been trying to grow our counseling program, and, prayerfully, like, why isn't like this growing? We should be able to find counselors. And the Lord, he very clearly, like I told you, to open a school. Mm-hmm. And so when I realigned and again focused on what he told me to do and told us to do, and our board followed, in suit. Again, door after door has been opening, from financially to just giving us the licenses and the grace we need and the people, the teachers we need, and so we're growing.
Amazing,
yeah.
Amazing. I was going to also ask you about your, a little bit about your background. Can you tell me a little bit about your background? I know you've worked with several different agencies. You've had different roles. And again, thank you for sharing a little bit about your story. I'm sorry to hear that about your child passing away. Can you share a little bit more about your background?
Absolutely. So a little bit about my childhood background. Number one, I was taken from my biological parents at 5 years old. The five oldest of us kids were taken at that time, and I grew up in foster care. When I was a teenager, I ran away from, I was adopted as an older child at 7 years old, and I ran away from that home as a teenager. And I should have been a statistic. I could have, and I lived in Detroit at that time, I could have ended on the streets or addicted to drugs or in a different complete life. And I definitely, maybe at times in my teenage years, was on that trajectory. But again, just like with this agency and the mission, God always put certain people or places in my path to just keep me moving towards I guess a life that ultimately would honor him. I know education is one of the things, through me being homeless, I always sought education. And so, I just persevered, through homelessness, waitressing, always having multiple different jobs all the way. And it was messy through my associate's degree. I would take a full class load, I would drop one. It took me multiple years just to get through that 2-year degree. But then there came a point in time, I think, in my life where I was just able to keep going through school and take it a little bit more seriously. And so I kept going till I got my master's degree. So back in the day, while I was working on my education about 20 years ago, I started in early Head Start. It was preschool, and I was supposed to be in an inclusion classroom. It was supposed to be mixed, kids with disabilities and general education, but 19 of the 20 kids were severely impacted with disabilities, and I think that was my introduction. And at the same time, I was teaching parenting classes to CPS clients. And so I saw this whole world of, from early childhood on through adults, of the mental health spectrum of families and the different factors that can affect families' wellness. And then that transitioned into, I started the Coffee Oasis Teen Shelter, kind of giving back to me being homeless in my youth, and that had always been in my heart to do something, and God kind of brought that to my plate. They had closed the position. I applied 2 weeks after it had been closed, and they immediately contacted me, and it was definitely a God thing. And at the same time, I was working, I got a job working as a foster care case manager, and so I was able to see, again, both ends of the spectrum: kids at risk, kids homeless youth, as well as youth in the foster care system, working with them directly, as with bio families as well as foster families. And that transitioned again back into neurodiversity. I managed a group home for developmentally delayed teen boys. And then throughout my master's degree, I worked in an inclusion classroom as a paraeducator, and at the same time was working on my master's in social work and also doing counseling internships.
Wow.
And at the same time, doing ABA therapy as a registered behavior technician. And so out of that, again, just prayerfully, I always told the Lord, if he brought me through my education, I'd give it all back to him. And he very clearly, November 2019 woke me up, started school. And it's just been his grace, his light, his blessing every step of the way throughout my life.
Amazing, amazing. So I know you've been involved with mental health. You worked with mental health for close to 20 years.
Yeah.
What are some of the differences back then that you see now, if you could compare?
Gosh, I would say a dependency and a close tie between mental health issues and electronics, specifically screen time. We see with social media as kids and their self-worth being tied up into the instant gratification, or the bullying, the quick unmonitoring bullying, and also the subjection to sexual images. They have bots that just automatically message kids, and so they're just subjected to this whole world that's constantly affecting their what they're learning about the world, their self-worth, their self-image. And then also I think it's impacting their ability to delay gratification. You know, if both with gaming and social media, if you're getting these quick dopamine rushes, you know, you're not learning like what you learned back in the day, like to persevere, like to build a fort, to be able to have fun playing in your fort. There's not that work hard to play later.
Yeah.
So I think like that years of learning how, you know, to effectively work hard in order to play hard, that's kind of lost. And then I think also just like with the screen time, science has shown that, you know, the blue light simulates like depression in our brain. So when you come off of the screens and your eyes looking at this constant screen, there's like a dip in your body, is like dopamine, and so it kind of simulates like a pseudo depression. And so you get these mopey kids who are not regulated, who don't know how to delay gratification, or they may be engaging in like these online role-playing reality relationships, and it's just not grounded in reality, and it's not regulating their bodies.
They look like zombies.
Then sometimes act like it, right?
Oh gosh, very. So from your experiences, what were some of the most challenging as far as dealing with clients, or some of your most memorable experiences, or even some of the most success, things you found the most joy and success in?
Yeah, challenging. I mean, there was a period of time where I was it was called a BRS case manager, which is like when you're in foster care, there's like different levels of care, 1, 2, and 3, and then BRS. BRS is Behavior Residential Services. So of course, like all my teenage clients, I would say they all were challenging, but they weren't probably my most challenging. I specifically remember it was a BRS case, but not because of behaviors. It was a medically fragile child, and he was born, and his biological father, when he was crying, like threw him up against a wall, and when he was a newborn, and bashed his head. Oh. And he needed emergency surgery, and they had to remove a piece of his skull, and it was so fractured that they couldn't replace that piece of his skull. And this amazing foster family, they took him in from the hospital and cared for him, and he was able to live 18 months. He was progressing, you know, he was developmentally delayed, and that step-parent, of course, was in jail, or not step-parent, that parent was in jail. But then 18 months, I got a call from the parent that he was just rapidly declining, and we went over there in time to be with the family as that child passed away. And wow. And I think like that was really impactful, just the love and care that family, knowing that the outcome of this child, like medically they were told from the beginning that this child, without having something to cap in their brain and the multitude of medical issues, like that the kid was not supposed to have made it that long. And because of the incredible care and love of this family, like he had a loving 1.5 years, and that wow. family and the love that they had to be able to, you know, to the end of the life, to be able to do that impacted my heart. It brings tears to my eyes just like remembering like wow. their love to be able to do that and choose that, you know.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. And thanks for sharing that. That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. I'm thinking a lot about...
But I could also share memorable, like
sure,
a
go ahead.
One, right?
Please do.
We have a family in particular that has allowed me to share their story. When they came to us, they came to us during COVID times, and single dad. He had one son with severe autism with highly aggressive behaviors, and another son that has Down syndrome. They had been in isolation for a year, not attending school. Also, a year prior, mom, who had been primary caregiver, had suddenly died from cancer. She found out, and within months she had passed, and then a few months before that, a grandfather who also lived in the home had passed away just from natural age progression. So they not only had like these two major losses in their family, but then followed by a year of isolation. And so they came to us like in crisis. They hadn't had socialization. You know, the one child with severe autism was not able to be in public places. Dad just felt a lack of hope. And we were able to get Dad into his own services. We were able to provide respite for both sons and help one of them get into the more intense medical services he needed. We were able to just help wrap around this whole family and help them to see hope again. And today, like, Dad is in a new relationship. He's thriving. The one son with severe autism has like just wraparound medical supports, and the other one is getting ready to graduate from high school and, is able to enjoy our socialization as in Special Olympics. So just like to see families like this who, felt like this lack of hope. They had a lack of resources. They didn't even know how to like reach out or where to reach out, and to really empower their family to see hope again and to reach that next level for them. Like that's why we do what we do. And that's what the mission is all about.
Wow. And it kind of leads to the next question is about mental health, about why you feel like the mental health care is so important with our youth, especially today's youth.
Yeah, I think from the beginning, from early childhood on, mental health is important, and to be aware of like what's healthy attachments, and because it impacts your whole life. And if we can intervene early, and when they're still youth, then you can impact the trajectory of an entire lifetime. I think it was Frederick Douglass who said it's easier to build a strong child than to repair a broken man. And I think that is, pivotal of why
I would agree.
Specifically mental health is important for youth and their families, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that by far. Okay, I'm going to have a little bit of fun.
Okay.
This one, I'm going to do some word association games. Okay. And so I'm going to throw in one or two words and just tell me like the first thing that comes to mind. So the first one is, this one's a running joke with the past students at Chimicum and the staff. I have a strong dislike for pickles. And so I'll throw that as the first word that comes to mind. What would be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about pickles?
Dill.
Okay. Dill pickles, okay. Therapy.
Help.
Okay. Domestic violence.
Scared.
Okay. Co-occurring disorders.
Stigmatized.
Okay. Student learning.
It's supposed to be the first word, so I already probably messed up. Student learning is two words, though. Student learning. Engaging.
Okay. Community.
Support.
Okay, here's one. Rap music.
Oh, the bass. I don't know. That's the first word. I wanted to say a whole sentence.
Okay. Country music.
Ugh.
That's okay. How about 80s rock?
Oh. 80s rock. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. KZOK? I don't. Is that a word?
Yeah, that's okay. Action movies.
Welcome to my life. That's a phrase. No. Marvel.
Hey, right. Can't complain. Marvel. Comedies.
Oh, Adam Sandler. That's two words.
Adam Sandler, yeah. I like Adam Sandler. Good pick. Yeah, I'll go with that. Horror movies.
Oh man. I just remember being traumatized as a youth. That was the first thought that came to my mind, but that's not a word. Again,
That's okay. It's okay.
Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger.
Ooh. Hardcore.
There you go.
Okay. Romantic movies.
Oh, love.
Good. Okay. Chocolate.
Dark.
Okay. Pizza.
Oh, the Honolulu Hawaiian. Yeah.
Good taste. Good taste. Good taste. Last one. How about Filipino food?
Lumpia?
Yeah. Yes.
That's it.
Good
There you
pick.
go.
I like your way of thinking. I like your way of thinking a lot.
Not balut.
Not balut?
No, thank you.
I'll have to tell you about what
Leave that
balut
for the
is.
pros.
Yes, yes. Listeners, you'll have to find it out for yourself. Research it on Google. Any final words you'd like to tell our listeners?
Yeah, I think that we should all work together to destigmatize mental health. I think it can be really hard to ask for help or to recognize that, if you're feeling stressed or down, that, therapists can help. It's scary, and, it takes a lot of bravery in reaching out or going to that first session, but please, you never have to be alone, and there are people in different types of therapy and different types of counseling and support groups to help. So just because you tried one and it felt weird or awkward, try a different one. There's help out there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ashley, for your time.
Yep.
And that concludes this edition of Conversations with Mr. A. All I got to say is, wow, powerful episode. Thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing not only your story, your personal story, and just what happened with your son that passed away, and then also just your situation with the foster care, but also thank you for just sharing your story, just the vision you had for starting Alta Vista. And so actually something, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've actually been working with Alta Vista on a very part-time basis for the last 3 or 4 years. Just Monday evenings. I've only had a few clients, and I can say that working with Alta Vista is awesome. They're great people, love working under them, and they're just great to work with. So I've been working with them along with the school districts. And so thank you for listening, everybody, for this edition of Conversations with Mr. A. Stay tuned. We'll have some new episodes coming up soon. Take care.